So all the time people ask me, why do I write recipes for people with physical and intellectual disabilities? And I've kind of been avoiding that question for a while because I made a commitment to myself to never upload a video of myself crying. And as you can imagine, it's a very tender subject for me. But I know people want to know more about my journey and why I focus on people with physical and intellectual disabilities. And before I go through my journey, I just want to say that everybody should examine the gifts that they've been given and whatever platform they have to think about how you can use it to benefit people with disabilities, because they don't choose to have disabilities and life is tough enough. And if you can use whatever gifts you have to benefit them, it'll definitely be worth your while. It'll definitely be fulfilling. It will definitely make this world a better place. My journey really began years before I was born. My mom was diagnosed with a very debilitating illness, and I'll get into that at another time. And she really wasn't even supposed to have me. Her doctors suggested that she abort me, but she didn't want to do that. My mom being sick is something that has been a part of my life for my entire life. When I was about 7 years old, my mom decided to go back to school and pursue her dream of becoming a nurse. She graduated and she took care of people with disabilities. Even though she had issues herself, she was still physically able to get around. So when my mom became a nurse, she was focusing on taking care of people with disabilities, mostly people with cerebral palsy. And she took care of primarily children, but she did also have some adults as well. When I was in elementary school, I was bullied really, really bad. So it got to a point where I said, I'm not going back to school. I'll take whatever punishment is coming. I'm not going back. So I was at home, homeschooled, and she was taking care of this one young lady. Her family was so nice. They let my mom bring me, since I, would have been home alone if she wasn't able to bring me. So I was able to go to work with my mom when she would go take care of this lady. I really thought I was helping, but in hindsight, I was probably just in the way, but the family still welcomed me with open arms to come. Because of that experience, I have always seen people with disabilities. I've always been able to see them and see the different needs that they have, but see also how many things they are capable of doing. If given the right tools, people can do a lot more for themselves, and the ability to do things for themselves is where self-esteem comes from. In addition to that, for the better part of 4 years, my mother basically lived in the hospital between Cedars-Sinai, Kaiser Cadillac. She never saw home. Really, she was fighting for her life for 4 years. And in that time, I interacted with a lot of medical staff. For the most part, nurses and people who take care of people with special needs are angels. And it makes all the difference in the world, not only for the patient, but for the family who really wants to know that their loved one is cared for. Now, I'm not a nurse. That'll probably never be my skill set. So I could never do for people what those nurses did for my family, but I can use what I do have, and that is a cooking channel, to do something similar for a lot of other families. And I remember when she was in Cedars-Sinai, there was this one older Filipina lady nurse. She was like the head nurse. She was amazing. Her name was Rue. And anytime we had to be dealt devastating news, which was often, she was so tactful and kind and compassionate with the way she shared her news. Direct and kind. The way she cared for my mother was beautiful. If anybody knows her, tell her I love her forever. When my mom was at Kaiser Cadillac, there was I don't even know what they call them anymore. Back in the day, they would have been called orderlies, maybe transportation team or whatever, but my mom was on dialysis. So, 3 times a week, they would move her from her hospital room to dialysis, and there was a guy who would often be the one pushing her from her hospital room to dialysis. And he would say, oh, I know we got to get you to dialysis, but let's just stop and sit in the sun so you can feel what real sunlight feels like, because I know you've been sitting under those halogen lights all day. Let's just sit and let the sun hit your skin. Let's just enjoy this for a moment. I would often be on FaceTime with my mom when she was in the hospital, and I witnessed this guy think of something that people would never think of. Like people who live in the hospital don't get to feel sunlight. So he would just take her on her way to dialysis and let her just sit in the sun for like 5 minutes and feel what it's like to not be cooped up from her hospital room or to her dialysis chair. Just be outside like a person. And moments like that made all the difference. So I needed another moment. I'm gonna leave all of that there because I'm clearly not really ready to talk about that. But that's why I see people with physical disabilities, and definitely I have compassion. I try to think of ways to make their lives better. Moving to intellectual disabilities, that's also a topic very close to my heart. I have an 8-year-old son, and he's autistic. He does have some challenges, but challenges is not all that he has. He has some gifts. He is the best 8-year-old artist I've ever seen. He does some amazing drawings. He taught himself to read before he was even speaking. So he was nonverbal. You could ask him a question, he would just look at you. But I grabbed a card one day and he read the card. And I was like, how are you doing this? He is verbal now. He talks. He can speak in full sentences. You can have a back and forth conversation with him now. But when he was younger, he was nonverbal. I love that boy so much. So there are things he struggles with, but there are things he excels at. And given the right tools, I know one day he'll be able to make meals for himself. So this passion project is for my baby because I know that he's capable of taking care of himself one day, being more independent. I know he has it in him. That is why my no knives rule is very strict, because I know that I couldn't trust him to use knives and not hurt himself. But when it comes to putting something in a crock pot and turning it on, I know he can do that. So I keep my baby in mind. I keep my mom in mind. And for anybody who is going through a disability, I keep you in mind. But yeah, that's a little bit of my journey. It is a very tender topic, but people wanted to know. There it is. I may have to do another deep dive on it because I got a little emotional, you know, discussing all of my reasons. But yeah, I really hope that my recipes help. I really hope that even in the tiniest of ways, it makes a difference. Sometimes I have to just leave the comment section because your stories make me get really emotional and choked up. But if I can just improve somebody's life just 1%, it's all worth it. I had the idea for so long, but I really was afraid that it would never reach its target audience because me and the algorithm don't always get along. But I was like, you know what? Even if one person is helped, it'll be worth it. So I made the series and I had no idea it would do as well as it has done. I'm still shocked. One of the videos is almost at 4 million views right now. I never saw that coming, ever. But I'm so thankful that it's reaching its target audience. And I just want to say, if you guys have any suggestions, any requests, let me know. I do run multiple series and I wear multiple hats, so I can't always get to it right then, but I do read your comments. I do take your suggestions into consideration. So please just let me know if there's anything that I can do to make your life a little bit better. I'd love to do it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.